Quick warning before we start. This episode may cause sudden cravings for tacos, unexpected feelings of trail gratitude, and an urge to be nicer to strangers. This episode of the Social Adventures podcast is brought to you by the Six Pack of Peaks Challenge, a hiking challenge built around community, purpose, and meaningful moments on the trail. Learn more at socialhiker.net. All right, let's get into it. Welcome back to Social Adventures, Conversations from the Trail. I'm your host, Jeff Hester. And today we're diving into one of my favorite traditions in hiking, in the hiking world. It's trail magic. The unexpected kindness, generosity, and joy that shows up when hikers need it the most. And we're going to be taking a look at it from a very specific perspective. And that is, we'll be talking about something that I really was happy to be a part of, and I know that the guests that I have on this roundtable were happy to be a part of. And it's the Muir Taco Hut and the Muir Taco Adventure. The very first Muir Taco Adventure was held in 2014, and I had this crazy idea that, what if we hauled fresh tacos into the wilderness and served them to through hikers on the PCT and the JMT, somewhere near Muir Pass, ideally near Muir Pass. So then that's the hut. And so over the years, it's become sort of quasi legendary bit of trail magic, thanks to some of the guests who are on this podcast today. And I'm joined by three of those amazing humans. Derek Loranger, who was part of the very first taco crew in 2014. Welcome, Derek. We're
Hello.
welcoming we're Curt Cragg, who is a JMT through hiker, multi-year taco hauler, and a great organizer. Welcome, Curt.
Yep.
And our third guest, Neenah Spellman, who is a longtime trail angel and organizer for the Muir Taco Hut. She's kind of kept it alive as we've all scattered to the four corners of the world. And we're all going to get together. We're going to be sharing our stories, mishaps, miracles, and even some things that maybe that you can take away to if you wanted to start something similar. So we're going to talk about what makes trail magic magical. So, before we get into trail magic, I want to, or get into the tacos specifically. What does trail magic mean to each of you? I'll throw this over to Derek. What does trail magic mean to you, Derek?
Um, Trail magic for me means like a pleasant surprise that somebody has granted me on the trail. And it could be something like, finding carne asada tacos and beer along the JMT, or it could be for instance, Jeff and I just did, with a group of friends, did the Sawtooth Loop up in Idaho. And for almost the entire trail, it was so well maintained. Like in the back of my head, that felt like trail magic along the way.
That's all right. Um, Curt, I'm going to ask you a different question. Do you remember ever, the first time that you experienced trail magic as a hiker?
I do actually. I was hiking the John Muir Trail, and I was hiking with my friend Skip, but we kind of hike at different paces. So I was by myself. He was behind or in front. I don't even remember which. And I came across a group of packers, or actually an individual packer with a string of a string with him, and he was packing in for a group, I guess. And I jokingly said to him, "You don't happen to have a cold beer, do you?" And he said, "Well, I might just happen to." And he reached into his saddlebag and handed me a cold beer and said, "Here you go." And that's when my experience with trail magic was born. And I wanted to repeat that for somebody else because it was probably the most amazing thing I'd ever experienced, being on the trail for 12 or 15 days at that point, and
Oh my gosh,
tasted the best beer I ever had.
that feeling is amazing, right?
Yes, it is.
So, Neenah, what do you think trail magic? Why does trail magic have such an emotional impact on hikers when they receive it? You've experienced it, you've seen it firsthand.
Well, sometimes it can be that they're having a really bad day on the trail and it brightens it up. Um, and interestingly enough, I think I've done 10 to 12 taco huts and I've never experienced trail magic myself.
Wow. So it is pretty neat to see. It's
Yeah.
really cool to be able to see the smile on people's faces and the surprise. So I'm going to share a little bit about the origin story and kind of how and where the idea first came to me, and why tacos. So I have through hiked the JMT a couple times. The first time was in 1980. I was 18 years old. And the second time was 2010. And I remember on the first time I did it, I was the recipient of some trail magic. We were outside of, um, let's see, we were up past, south of Reds Meadow. So we just passed Devil's Postpile in that area. And, Deer Creek, I think was where we were, and there was a guy who had packed in from Mammoth Lakes, and we met and we were talking for a little bit. And he said, "You know what? I'm just here for the weekend," and he packed in a bunch of stuff. He gave me a entire cantaloupe, which is like, fresh fruit on a trail. We were on a 25-day schedule on the JMT. Fresh fruit is like unbelievable. It's something that you just don't get. You're eating dehydrated food every day. And it was just amazing to be able to have that. And so I shared it with the rest of my group when they arrived, and it was just a great experience. So I thought to myself, having done the JMT a couple times and been the recipient of Trail Magic, I thought, what a great way, what a cool way to be able to sort of pay it forward and return the favor. And to me, I thought, sort of, what is the sort of thing that would be unexpected and really coveted? Like you'd really be grateful for, receiving something like this on the trail. When I did the JMT in 1980, I kept a little notebook with a pen and paper, and I started writing down all the foods that I wanted to eat. Towards the end of the trip, I'm like, oh, I want to have ice cream, and I want to have, cantaloupe. I want to have all these things that I couldn't get on the trail. And the typical thing on the trail, one of the typical things that I love Mexican food, and like a nice taco with fresh cheese and guacamole or avocado and carne asada or chicken and all of the fixings, and a cold beer sounds like just amazing. It's like one of those things, when you're 10 days into a trip or longer, it's like, that's just gold. And so I kind of put together this idea, and I like to come up with sort of a clever name for this sort of thing. And I thought of, well, the Muir Hut on Muir Pass would be like an ideal place to do this, because it's a place everybody stops when you're through hiking. You take a break, if nothing else. You drop your pack, you take some pictures, maybe have a snack. And I thought, well, that'd be a perfect place. It's hard to get to. We're a couple days away from any resupply points, so people are probably, we're not going to be hitting people that have just resupplied and they've already had, a burger or whatever where they resupplied. So I thought that would be perfect, and came up with the idea for the Muir Taco Hut and at Muir Pass. And I pitched the idea. I think Derek was one of the people who I mentioned it to. Derek, do you remember, that first call, and what convinced you to join this sort of crazy sort of endeavor?
I honestly don't remember. I know 1 week before we did it, you, me, Joan, and the PD all did San Gorgonio. You and Joan made it to the top while I had a cold and had foot problems, which would change the trajectory of the first Taco Hut. But yeah, I don't remember. It was probably an email. Maybe we even chatted about it, but I think you had it planned long before San Gorgonio. But yeah, I don't remember. I just know that, hey, you want to go to the Sierras? You want to carry a 6-pack each of beer up into the wilderness? Sure, let's do it.
And that was the thing. We each carried, so there were three of us on that first on that first trip. We each committed to carrying a 6-pack of beer. We got to pick whatever we wanted, and I think we split up some of the ingredients. We had tortillas, we had cilantro, we had cheese, we had fresh avocado, and the carne asada. I think I had grilled carne asada at home, and then kind of cut it up and froze it, and I brought this frozen brick of cooked carne asada that basically just needed to be kind of sautéed and reheated in a pan. So, what did you expect from this trip, and then when did it become what? How did reality differ from what you expected?
Yeah, I expected that we were going to make it to the hut, which we didn't, due to my foot problems. And again, I was coming down with a second cold a week after I got a first one, and um, I was just calculating everything, and like, there's no way, based on my pace, that we were all going to make it to the hut and then back in our itinerary. So I told Jeff, and the PD, like, you guys go ahead. I'll wait here, but Jeff is no person left behind. So we ended up going to the Monster, which was a different location, but I was really expecting to see more people on the trail, on the JMT, and I was expecting to have everybody like unanimously be excited about it. But we had one young lady that was hiking alone, and she has these 3 old guys saying, "Hey, do you want a beer?" And obviously that interaction kind of happened as you might think. So and then I remember kind of an older couple coming by, and we offered it. They just kind of shook their head and went by. But so those were the interactions that I was not expecting. I was expecting more people, and I was expecting like universal excitement.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, like the first actual customer that we had. We'll call it a customer. These were free tacos, free beers. We didn't ask for anything. We didn't take donations. This
Yeah.
was just like, here, have this thing. And do you remember that first person who stopped and the expression on their face or how they responded?
Yes, and he was just had his mouth open like, "Are you serious?" And we're like, "Yes." And beer, we're like, "Yes, cold. They are in the creek right now." I forgot which you brought, Jeff, but the PD brought Corona. I bought a nice Hefeweizen, and then you had something. I probably
I
Sierra
probably had an
Nevada or something.
IPA. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're like, "Yeah, what would you like?" And like, I get a choice, and then and yeah, he was just completely dumbfounded and super thankful. And it just, I mean, that was what I was expecting, and it was really, really great to be a part of that.
So let's kind of shift gears and talk a little bit about the mechanics of hauling all this stuff into the backcountry. So a couple things. First, the places that we targeted for actually serving tacos were generally 2 days away from the nearest trailhead. So that meant, getting to the trailhead. It meant divvying up the supplies. It meant, loading our packs with not only the food and everything that we needed for ourselves, but also the stuff that we were going to serve for folks. And then hiking, 1 or even 2 days into the backcountry to get to the PCT, JMT ribbon in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Guys, what can you? I'm going to switch this up to like bring you guys all in. Anyone who wants to take this on, what are we talking about to make this happen? All the gear, we've got stoves, pans, fuel, tortillas, cheese, salsa, beer. What are some of the? I mean, what are we talking about? There's a lot of extra weight, right?
Yeah, it adds about 10 pounds to your pack. The beer itself is 5 to 6 pounds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and what do you guys remember, or what do you find what worked well for keeping everything fresh on that journey to wherever we ended up serving tacos? What worked well?
I think it's important to freeze the meat. That way it stays cold.
Uh,
And also,
Definitely,
also
yeah,
bury this stuff in your pack, especially the cheese, because if the cheese gets too hot, it turns into a giant ball. So if you can bury the stuff in your pack to keep it cooler, that helps a lot.
yeah, yeah. Hey, Curt, do you remember? Like what about finding what sort of makes a good place to serve tacos on the trail in your mind?
Well, I think for one thing, you want to be far enough from a point so that the people haven't had fresh food, so they didn't
Yeah,
Red's Meadow, Reese, Vermilion, and then also a place where a lot of people gather. So our first taco hut, which we were trying to get to, the hut as well, ended up at Evolution Lake, or not Evolution Lake, at the lake, below the hut, and that turned out to be a great spot. A lot of people there. That
Yeah.
it was kind of a where people were stopping for the day. So those are, I think, are important things. Also, we did a couple at Purple Lake, which turned out to be a location because people were coming through from the south, maybe going north and hadn't been to Red's Meadow yet, or they'd been out a couple of days from Red's Meadow. So that seemed to be a very popular spot where people were a lot of traffic through.
yeah. We hit a
Well,
lot of different
Also,
spots.
also,
when we
it's important to be close to a water source so you can cool the beers.
Yeah, or snow, or snow
Yeah.
source. Yeah, I can remember, and I know you guys have done this without me many, many, many times, but I can remember the first time at the Monster with Derek. I remember being at McClure Meadow, and there was a fire going on. We were aiming for. We went over Lamarck Pass, and we were aiming for the Muir Pass, but there was a fire that they were saying, "Oh yeah, Muir Pass is shut down. The rangers turning people around and all that." So we ended up going the other opposite direction and went to McClure Meadow, and that worked out really well. And then what are some of the other places that we've set up? I mean, I think we didn't actually hit Muir Hut until what, year 5 or something like that?
It was
that's right. It was
mm,
one attempt for and came up short, and then figured out a way to get them faster, which was the key to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we actually had hiker come over, Lamarck, call Ryan, and meet
Yeah.
us at the hut. And so, but we had some other unusual. We did one that was below pass or Little Five Lakes, I guess, because there was too much snow on the pass. So we decided to just set up next to some little tarn that was cold enough for the beers, and actually had people struggling down the pass that were very happy to see us because they'd made it through the snow field.
Do
But
you
yeah,
re-
it's
do you
been
remember, Curt? Do you remember like what's the heaviest load you carried over the? What is your personal record?
I never really paid that much attention to it. And here's the reason why. I looked at it. I always had my base weight, which was in the lightweight category. So adding that was just like being on the JP for an extended trip, because it was, 10 pounds of food that you would have carried for a 7-day trip. You were just carrying it for a 2 or 3 day trip. So,
Yeah.
I was probably over 35, 40 pounds because my base weight was pretty light to start with. So we always had to carry some extra wine for ourselves too. So there was that part of it.
All
Didn't
right.
you
Tacos.
guys end up having a big banner that you would carry too? And wasn't that bulky and heavy?
The banner wasn't bad actually. The banner's not that big, but it was a great thing. That's what attracted a lot of people that first year that we went over the call at the lake, because people
yeah.
saw the, and we had the T-shirts too. So it became more of a thing, I guess you could say by then. And
We had
and that made it.
T-shirts, we had the banner, and then the banner kind of legitimized it. It's not just some old dudes, offering tacos on the trail, but it seemed a little more legit, maybe.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
we had
the
to put.
first time I participated, and it was at Evolution Lake, and I was hanging up the banner, and this young kid comes up to me, looks at me, looks at the banner, and he goes, "You're effing with us, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Nope, we're going to serve tacos and beer." He's like, "Really?"
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Like, what are some of the reactions that you all remember from, some of the through hikers who came through over the years, and what are some of the experiences or stories that you remember from that?
Well, we've
Well,
had numerous tears, people saying that we turned a worst day on the trail into the best day, and that's always rewarding.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know if it's the same story, but I remember a story like that where a young woman was doing the PCT and she says, I was having exactly that. Today was like the worst day. I was at my lowest point on the trail. And now this is
Yeah,
like the best day on the trail. It was amazing.
yeah.
Um,
It
any,
happens almost every taco hut.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
I think we always hoped for happiness, but we never expected the tears, the range of emotion. That's the thing that I think kept us all coming back, was just those amazing reactions from people, so excited, people running down the trail because they heard from the hikers that had left that there were tacos and they wanted to get there before they were gone, and talking to people about their experience. That was amazing.
What's the biggest group that we've had? What's the biggest group that we had, and the biggest number of tacos that we distributed?
Well, I think
Neenah,
Well,
you
the
obviously
probably know this one. Yeah, it's
the more people you have, the more stuff you can carry in. And I think the biggest
mhm,
group we ever had was 11. And off the top of my head, I mean, that was probably 5 years ago, and I don't remember how many tacos we served, but obviously,
a
the more
lot.
schleppers,
Yeah,
the more tacos.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
yeah.
one year we went out over Bishop Pass. I'm not sure if that's how we came in, but that was one of the bigger groups that I remember. And we never really counted tacos. I mean, we knew roughly how many tortillas we brought in, but I don't think we ever really kept track per se, or I didn't anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Derek, do you remember? I think we served what, two people that
Yeah,
first year.
well, I mean, five if you include the three of us. I mean, and
Yeah, there
there
you
was
go.
the
Yeah.
beer tax as well. I mean, I was delighted to get carne asada tacos too. So yeah, and then one of the guys actually said, "Hey, can I hike out with you?" And I think Jeff, you ended up probably giving him a ride into town, if I
Yeah,
recall
yeah,
correctly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he
So
he camped
yeah,
with us the next day and shared more beer with us and stories. And yeah, it was it wasn't a high quantity trip, but definitely the quality was there.
the quality was there for sure, and it was enough for me to like, hey, let's do this again. I think this was a lot of fun. Are there any of you? Were there any moments where you thought this is totally off the rails, or you thought what we're doing is really awesome?
Every trip.
Well, yeah, every, really every trip, because I think we got such great reactions every trip, and I mean, just what kept you coming back and doing it, because it was so much fun. And we probably there were probably times we served 30 or 40 tacos. So I mean, obviously the numbers increased as the scale of the group increased, and then we were doing two a year for a while, for at least I think almost 3 years, or maybe four. Dina might remember better. So it was
Yeah.
great to experience it twice for those of us that can make all the trips, and um, yeah, a lot of fun.
Then the
Let's
pandemic
talk.
kind of put the brakes on for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Let's talk a little about the community around Trail Magic and tradition and how you get people coming back year after year. And Neenah, let's start by maybe what drew you to participate in the taco crew.
Well, I saw on Facebook that you had done it, I think the first year, and I really wanted to get involved. And for some reason, I wasn't able to the second year, but the third year, I got involved, and that was 2016. And yeah, I will keep doing them until I can't anymore.
What do you think keeps people who participate in something like this? What keeps them coming back to volunteer, year after year?
I think it's just the reaction we get. And, yeah, it's the reaction from people. They're very appreciative and happy and excited, and there's kind of a real energy in the air around the taco huts.
Hey, Derek, what does giving back to hikers mean to you? personally?
A variety of different things. Something I carved out sometime this year. I actually bought a wireless saw and a bunch of batteries, and I've been going out in the local trails here and just kind of clearing the trails away because some of them have gotten really heavily overgrown. So that's one way that I do it. Is just kind of maintain the trail, and one little trail magic thing that I did a few years back was that used to be in this boot camp that used to work out early in the morning, and I got wind that they were going to be on the mountaintop near where I live, looking at the moon. It was some kind of like full super moon or something like that, blood moon, and so I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and climbed up top of that peak and humped a bunch of water up there, a bunch of instant coffee and creamer, and as people started coming up the mountain there's probably 20 of them. I'm like, hey, you want some coffee? Want some hot coffee? And so that was my little like version of trail magic, local, from a mountain that's visible from my house. So, it can come in many different shapes and sizes, but it was just fun seeing all the joy and the surprise. People like, it's always that, really, are you really making me coffee right now? And I'm like, hey, cream or sugar? And and it's just, I don't know, it's just sharing that joy of surprise on the trail of somebody who is just in the middle of doing something challenging or have just done something challenging. And, they're probably in their own headspace a little bit because they had to get a little willpower to do what they're doing, and to suddenly just see, wow, this is, this little nice surprise is, just going to completely change their mindset. And it's a great way to spread joy on the trail.
Yeah, share a little joy. Hey, Curt, talk to me about why you think this tradition, specifically the Muir Taco Hut, why it's lasted so long, and just trail magic in general. Why does it keep? Why do people keep doing it?
Well, I think the gratification that you get from it, as it, everybody that participates and helps make it happen, in my experience, are givers, and the gratification that they get from giving is seeing the people's reactions. And so to be able to participate in something like that on a regular basis, it's kind of like a perfect place. We've all benefited from some kind of trail magic, been able to share it and see the reactions to it. And I think specifically the Muir Taco Hut, just because it was such a interesting concept, the whole idea of having a taco hut at the Muir Hut, that was always the goal. And even though most of them have not been at the hut, the, something that kind of catches people's imagination. So I think it's just a combination of things. It's mostly Neenah now keeping it going and keeping it alive. So I think
All
we all
right,
appreciate that.
amen. So let's talk about how other people can do something like this. What are some ways that others can create trail magic? I know, Derek, you've talked about just some sort of down to earth examples that you can do local that don't take a lot of production, a lot of people, pretty simple. What are some ways of providing simple acts of trail magic, whether it be locally or on a bigger trail like the JMT or the PCT, or one of the other, or somewhere else in the country even? And you want to
Yeah,
take that one?
Jeff. When we did the Wonderland Trail, I had shipped beers in my resupply buckets, and we were carrying some, and then we were all staying at the hut in Summerland, and we encountered another hiker, and it was his birthday. And so we decided, hey, we have 3 beers here, and one in our group didn't really care for IPAs as much. So we said, hey, do you want a beer? Happy birthday. And he was just like, what, are you kidding me? And so we all sat around, we drank beer, and we kind of celebrated birthday. And it's just, there's a lot of ways to do it. And actually just on this call right now, I'm thinking, the PCT, I live in San Diego, and the PCT runs through here. So people aren't really as hungry as they are, once they get further north. But I could definitely find either a place I can hike to or even drive to, because the PCT crosses roads all over the place down here. And I could set up something fun, it doesn't have to be tacos. It could be something else. But yeah, I'm just kind of getting inspired by this call right now.
Right on. Curt or Neenah, any thoughts on sort of how other people can create trail magic where they are?
Well, I think
But I think
anything. that you wouldn't normally encounter on the trail or be carrying yourself. You know, go to anywhere where the trail hits a spot, whether you can hike in or you can drive to, and then just share.
Yeah. I had an experience where the first time I did the JMT, I was 18 and there were a couple of college kids who carried in our final resupply package. I think they came over Kearsarge Pass or something like that and dropped up. We were meeting at some trail junction, and this is back in 1980. There's no cell phones, there's no GPS, there's no nothing. We just had a date and an approximate time, and we were hanging out there for like a couple hours, and I was starting to get a little nervous because we needed that food. And they finally showed up. They had our resupply package and all of our food, but then also they had, and here's a Snickers bar, for you. And it was like, oh, that was just heavenly, like something. I think one of the key elements of trail magic is that it's unexpected. And I think that's one of the things that I like about the Muir Taco thing is we never said, oh, on this date and at this time, we're going to be at this location. We'll see you there. No, it's just like, it's just between the group of people who are volunteering. Nobody knows where we're going to be or when we're going to be there, but we would just show up, put up the banner, wear our shirts or whatever, and start making tacos and passing them out. What about, like, does it have to be tacos? Obviously, we've kind of talked about that. It doesn't have to be tacos. It could be coffee. It could be, a cantaloupe or a candy bar. What advice do you have for somebody who wants to try something like this?
Make it easy to make. Like, don't make it too complicated. Make it something like, for instance, our friend Jeff and I, we have a friend named Adam who just did the Colorado Trail 1 or 2 summers ago. And as he was coming along, he found somebody coming the other way going, hey, by the way, they're making pancakes at the next road crossing. And, Adam was like, what? He was amazed. So suddenly his pace, gets a little faster, even faster than it normally is. And he comes and they're making pancakes, which are pretty simple to make. But if you've been on a trail for a long time, a nice hot pancake with syrup goes a long way to spread joy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we'll have to get Adam on the podcast one of these days. He'd be a great addition. All right. So what's the smallest act of trail magic that you can think of that has made a big impact? Either you personally or a story that you've heard or somebody that you know of. The smallest act of trail magic
I
that
mean, I
made a
don't know
big
if this is
impact.
trail magic or not, but one thing that, again, we have a mutual friend named Jason who always brings chocolate on every through hike we do, every backpacking trip. He always brings chocolate and he always has enough to share. And while it's not generally a surprise, after hiking a 15-mile day, you kind of forget about it until he says, hey, does everybody want chocolate? And everyone's like, yes, we would like chocolate. And it's always, it's a tiny little thing. And for instance, I tend to bring circus animals. I try to bring enough, to share. And on Sawtooth, unfortunately, the calories were pretty limited, so I needed to eat all of them myself. But
I
typically,
was
I
going to
bring enough
say
to
I didn't get any
share.
circus animals.
Yeah,
Like a giraffe or a
I certainly
zebra.
did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess just sharing what you have on the trail. I mean, I have story after story. I met a woman in Greenland when we were backpacking the Arctic Circle Trail, and we were in this one hut, and we both kind of emptied out our food. And at the bottom of my food bag, I found some brownies that my wife had made, and I had forgotten that were even in there, believe it or not. This is like day 7 of 9 or something. And then she emptied out hers, and we were kind of counting how much food we had left. And so I ended up sharing brownies, and she ended up sharing chocolate. It ended up being this like mini, Thanksgiving in this hut, in the middle of Greenland. And that was just, a little moment of joy and sharing. And, it's something that's stuck with me. It's one of our favorite days on the trail there.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, let's do a closing round and we'll talk about why we do it. So I'm going to ask each one of you to answer this one question in one sentence. And you can wave your hand at me or whoever wants to go first. So, in one sentence, why do you do trail magic?
I'll go first.
Go for
I
it.
want to vicariously experience the joy that they receive by the surprise.
That's a great feeling, right?
It sure is.
All right, Curt, why do
Well,
you do trail magic?
I think Derek nailed it. I mean, I've always enjoyed giving back to the trails, whether it was coordinating volunteers to do trail work or whatever. But it really is, I always just want to share my fulfillment indoors and in whatever capacity that I can. So whether it's doing trail projects or uh, helping coordinate things or doing trail magic, it's all sort of the same thing. It's a way to keep people enthusiastic about being outside when things like that happen. So that's why I do it.
Okay, excellent. So, Neenah, why do you do trail magic?
I'm not sure I can add much more than that, but yeah, it's just for bringing joy, a surprise and a joy to people out in the trail, and perhaps making their day.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing like that sense of joy that you experience personally, giving somebody a smile, something that was unexpected and they have a great day. All right.
I
Well,
say
yeah,
truly a labor of love.
it for sure is. It for sure is a labor of love. It takes a lot of planning and effort. But it also can be a simple thing, like serving coffee on the top of on a local trail. All right. Well, I want to thank huge thanks to Derek, Curt, and Neenah for keeping the Muir Taco adventure alive in spirit and in reality, and for everything you've do and continue to do for the hiking community and getting people excited about the outdoors. I know that we all share that sentiment. All right. If you're listening to this podcast and you've got your own story of trail magic, giving or receiving, head over to socialhiker.net/podcast and share it. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. And until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and take the trail less traveled.